It's not going to change for women in a Christian community who are in leadership if we're not talking about these things. So this podcast is speaking true, vulnerable experiences where women really tried their best to show up well, even when they failed. And how do we extend grace in failures and mistakes, knowing that to be a leader and to be a woman in leadership is one of the hardest things, especially in the Christian community. This podcast is for women who are pastors, CEOs, ministry leaders, founders, and women serving within the fivefold who carry vision publicly and wrestle privately. As you listen, you will gain courage to confront your own story without shame, wisdom to strengthen your leadership, and clarity to rebuild with discernment, boundaries, and grace. You will not just hear testimony, you will receive language for your process, tools for healthier leadership, and the confidence to lead again without losing your soul. This is the Sword Grace Unscripted podcast. I am your host, Tina Smith. I am thankful that you have joined me for this podcast. I wanted to start this journey with you to share why my heart led to starting, developing, and bringing on other women in leadership who have led in the Christian community, whether as a business owner, as leading an organization, a church. There is a diversity of Christian women in leadership doing the hard thing. And oftentimes we don't get an opportunity to talk about those things that occur behind the scenes. You know, it's the areas of our lives where you step away from the pulpit, you step out of the boardroom, you close the door, you go home. It's the hard stories that occur for women who are leading that are not often spoke of unless it's within their intimate circles. You have had to make hard decisions, and then you've had to go home to raise your children. Maybe you've had to go home and take care of your parents or a family member, or you're a caregiver for someone. That just because you're leading doesn't mean that you're also not facing your own battles in your personal life. And I think sometimes we all wear these different hats, whether it's wife, mom, leader, business owner, volunteer. There's so many hats that women wear, and they bring a level of responsibility and commitment that is often not spoken of. And this podcast really is giving voice to all of the things that women have to carry while they're also leading people and leading decisions that are sometimes really hard. After going through many seasons as a therapist, building an organization, and then the Lord asked me to build a not-for-profit, my own experience, both personally and professionally, has faced adversity. I've faced my own mistakes and failures, but have also experienced the very things that we all come up against, whether it's disagreement or misunderstanding, gossip and rejection and betrayals. And this isn't about a podcast to create posture of someone being a villain or someone's a victim. This is about giving voice to these stories. These are stories that women that you have to walk through. And it gives you an opportunity to take these stories and hear from women who have walked through really hard things, but they haven't landed in offense. They haven't stayed in bitterness. They haven't built from resentment. They haven't built from these areas of their life that we could all very well because they're held in our flesh. But we know that in continuously doing the things that Lord asks us to do, if we build within any form that is not representative of who Christ is, we build something that's going to fall apart. And I think for all of us as women, we have those stories. We have those stories of lessons and failures and mistakes that if we could go back, we would do different. And I know that you also have one of those stories. I know that if you are listening to this, you have had experiences where you wish you had understood, or you listened to your discernment, or you wish you would have picked the proper alignments when maybe the Lord even showed you the warning signs and you didn't listen. These are all of the stories, because here's the thing that I want you to hear. No matter where you're leading, whatever the Lord is asking you to do, He wants you to build with Him leading. And the voices will come. People may not always get what you're building or what you're trying to achieve, but when you get conviction and when you have a vision, your job is to create an alignment with who God is. And your metrics, no matter what comes your way, your metrics of constant transformation, and this is not just for Christian women in leadership, but for us, it's remembering that no matter what adversity we go through, whether it's our failures and our mistakes, we are to heal, we're to learn, and we're to grow, and we're to restore. Because we have something we need to do for the Lord while we have our time here. And some of these things are hard. Some of it is pushing back against systems that actually are causing harm. Or maybe it's recreating or building something that others just don't get. But you know so strongly within your spirit that this is something you are called to do. I am speaking to you. When you come face to face with the hardships and the voices and the rejections, the betrayals and the gossip, or when your personal life shows up in ways that you wish it didn't, because things still happen, we're still going to face trials and tribulations. You're going to hear from women who have lost, who have experienced pain and hardship in their personal life. You're going to hear stories from leaders who've had to make really hard decisions, whether that's terminating someone on their team, letting someone go when they really didn't want to, the hard things that they've had to walk through, that we don't get to see those stories. We don't get to hear those stories. And these are stories where women have actually gone home and they've cried. They've wept with the Lord. They have fallen on their knees saying, Lord, take this from me. But in asking that, they continue to build. You continue to build. You know, when we look at individuals in the Word of God, there's so many beautiful women that we can look to as examples. And we see Ruth, who's just this quiet builder. She built from the margins. She did not lead publicly, and she didn't speak loudly, and she did not hold authority or title, but she faced rejection as a foreigner. She faced poverty as a widow. In unseen places, she was building, and she stayed loyal when leaving would have been understandable. Ruth teaches us that building often happens through consistency and humility and obedience, because people are watching. She reminds us that faithfulness in even the small places can shape legacy. And then we have Deborah. We have Deborah, who is a vocal builder. She was building in full view of everybody. She led publicly. So different than what we see of Ruth. And Deborah had to speak clearly. She had to carry authority and responsibility in a nation that was so fractured. And she faced hardship as a woman leading in a male-dominated culture during a time of oppression and fear. Her leadership required tons of courage and discernment and willingness to speak when others actually hesitated. She called so many leaders forward and named truth without apology, and she stood firm. And what we see in Deborah is that sometimes it teaches us to have a strong voice and direct leadership in public obedience. She reminds us that God anoints women to speak and lead and govern with wisdom. And whether you are someone like Ruth who's quietly leading, or whether you're a Deborah who's called to be a vocal builder and leader, you have a place. You have a place with your stories. You have a place to be heard and a place to be seen. Because I know that the cost of leading is often great for leaders. It's stories where pain has been at your door and it's come in your home, while also trying to hold it together for everybody else. This is an opportunity for you to be heard, whether it's through somebody else's story. But I want you to hear, most importantly, this podcast is about encouraging your healing. Because when you're not restored and healed, and you're not taking all of these lessons and these opportunities, it can turn inward, and it can cause you to be so overwhelmed that you're ready to give it all up. You're ready to throw in the towel. You are ready just to say, Lord, I don't want this. This is too hard. And what I want you to know is this podcast is meant to show up in a time or season in your life that says to keep going, to keep running this race. But do it well by letting the Lord lead you. Create alignments that hold your arms up when it feels really exhausting, when the voices are coming and the arrows are coming, but yet you have this conviction and this vision that says, Lord, you have asked me to do this hard thing. This podcast is for you. It's to keep you going, to keep stewarding, to know that there's women out there just like you who are doing the hard thing. They're healing, they're restoring, they're doing their best to not live in bitterness and offense and hurt, when it would be so easy to do that. You're going to hear stories of women who have healed and who have risen, who have stood back up. And it doesn't mean that the heart has stopped. It means that they remembered the vision. They remembered the blueprints the Lord has provided to them. And piece by piece, they've continued to do the very things that God asked them to do. I want you to remember what the Lord gave you. I want you to remember what keeps you holding on. And if you are one that has let go, or you said, I can't do it anymore, Lord, I hope this podcast finds you. I hope that it finds you in a season that says, just one more. Hold on to Jesus' hem. And keep rising, keep growing, keep building, and keep healing. Because there's another woman in leadership that needs you. Because there's another young girl. There's another teenage girl. There's another young woman looking to you to know what it is to carry on as a Christian woman in leadership. Because we need women to be heard, to be seen, to do the hard things. So keep joining me. Hear these stories. The stories that just make you pause. The stories that help you remember the goodness of our God. That more importantly, He comes to you so that you can know who you truly are in Him, that you are His daughter, you are His child. And that is simply enough. And when you come to know that, then you will rise differently, because there's no more striving, there's no more performance, there's no more approval by humans. There is simply, Lord, I see you. I see who you've called me to be. The metrics of my heart, of my spirit, of the change that you are creating in me is the fruit of the Spirit. That is who I'm called to be, because that exemplifies who Christ is. And so as you continue on this road, as you continue to build, as you continue to steward all that God is asking you to steward, you have a place amongst the other women, not in comparison, not in achieving, but because you are a daughter of the Most High God.